या विद्या शिवकेशवादिजननी या वै जगन्मोहिनी या पञ्चप्रणवद्विरेफनलिनी या चेत्कलामालिनी या ब्रह्मादिपिपीलिकादितनुषु प्रोक्ता जगत्साक्षिणी श्रीविद्यावतु सा मां भगवती श्रीराजराजेश्वरी। ओम शांति शांति। Welcome all of you, those who are here sitting in the auditorium, and many of you who are here with us digitally. Before I move on, thanks to the digital revolution that has really made our world very accessible. For that, my gratitude to all the scientists, all the inventors, all the great souls, mega corporations, and every single individuals who, in relation to them, we may be like even tiny little ants, but we have our own place and role to play in making this world continue moving forward. Topic for this particular session is homecoming within, defending and nurturing our priceless soul. Very timely topic. I'll start with something which is very ancient, but very relevant to the time we are living in. In fact, any time, not just our modern times. I'll start with a story which comes in the scriptures, several scriptures. Story of a amazing person. His name is Baka, B-A-K-A, very simple, Baka. It's totally different from bucks, those who roam in the jungles. Very different from what is meant by. Have you seen Three's Company? What makes you laugh? I'm so glad. Where Mr. Farley says, listen, Buck stops here. Okay. But this Buck is totally different. Okay? And perhaps this story was written long before even Yoga Sutra was written. But many of the things which he did was right from the heart of the Yoga Sutra. He mastered yoga, starting with Hatha Yoga. When you read the texts of Hatha Yoga, where the practice of asana, pranayamas, bandhas, mudras are described in super great details. In those texts, such as Hatha Yoga Pratipika, Goraksha Samhita, and many more, Rudrayamala, many tantric texts, they talk about yoga that aims at perfecting our bodies. Thousands, perhaps millions, try. Few reach the culmination point of Hatha Yoga. where you attain complete freedom from all diseases, which even the perfect Hatha Yoga masters of our modern times have not been seen reaching that far. But three things that's Hatha Yoga talks about. Freedom from all diseases. Then, freedom from old age. And freedom from death. So can you tell me, name of even one single yogi in last 100 years who never ever got sick throughout his or her life, and who never aged, and who never died? I think you will not get it. You will not find such an example. Okay? But that's what this person, Baka, Baka, went that far. And he achieved freedom from all these three. So, 100 years went by. He was still around. And became very popular. Wow! He's 100 years old and not a single gray hair. And he is the master, you know. And big crowd gathered around him. And became very popular. Many kings, many merchants sought him out. He was a big commodity in high great demand. Kings, political leaders needed him because his endorsement really meant a lot. Merchants, traders needed him because Baka was like at the center of all connectivity, like he was the Mr. Connections. And big organizations started growing. However, by the time he reached 110, there were many other people of his spiritual nature. I said, my God, this guy is not dying. We are working so hard, struggling with the maintenance of our roof and walls. I don't know what to do with this fellow. If he dies, so many of us will benefit. Remember Yoga Sutra, chapter 1, Sutra 33. Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeksha. It's not so. It's a great virtue to be happy upon seeing someone more virtuous than you are. You try your best, but if you are a cognizant person, then you will see deep down something is really still needs some improvement. Wars started. Can you believe? He's 110 years old. The way he smiles, this is really, Maya is so powerful. Somebody says, what's wrong if he smiles? What's wrong? Watch next time, just watch. She's only 20-year old. She's a married lady. And the kind of smile this fellow gives her, isn't that crazy? Okay. So by the time he was 115, 120 years old, he was just totally tired, fatigued, exhausted. Many times he was beaten up, but the problem was that he had become immortal. You know? People could see bruises here and there, but even the bruises used to get healed within a matter of no time. And by the time, the rumor was that this fellow is imposter. He's not 120 years old. Tell me, does he have birth certificate? No. Does anybody know where he was born? And the truth is, he's not one of us. But by the time he had become so popular, along with that positive popularity, now there was a humongous, burden of negative popularity. So no matter where he goes, there is no room for him. There is no home for him. Where should he go? What should he do? Then he goes into dense jungle. Problem was, still he had to deal with his mind. The practice he had done was super high intense tapas. High intensity tapas, where the elements of the body and the intrinsic properties that are contained even in our 5 gross elements, earth, water, fire, air, and space, and their corresponding subtle elements called tanmatras. It's law of nature. There's so much wealth, so much wealth. When you read the Yoga Sutra, 18, 19, chapter 2 of Yoga Sutra, 18 and 19 sutras, see, everything is there. Even today, you look at the chemistry, look at the metallurgy, look at physics, look at computer sciences, look at quantum physics. It's like endless. We thought that we already knew and we had already extracted things from the planet. But there is endless things. Where in the world we had ever thought that there will be such priceless gifts sitting in the earth? Previously we thought that gold was a very powerful thing, very important. You know how many kilograms make 1 ton? 1,000 kilograms. And how many grams make 1 kilogram? 1,000 grams. Okay? Approximately 29 grams make an ounce. 445 grams make a pound. And if you get 2 grams of gold from dirt or rock, of 1,000 dirt or rock, it's called gold mine. Okay? People figured out all that. So they got gold, copper. Then comes in our modern times, which was people knew almost 50 years ago, 100 years ago, many of these today's popular buzzword, rare earth elements. Scientists had discovered them. But now people are realizing just minuscule amount of, let's say, rhodium, cesium, beryllium, etc. are there. It's just sitting there. So there is a system whereby, in order to be a top-notch chemist, metallurgist, nuclear scientist, you do not need Patanjali or Shankaracharya or Dalai Lama or Krishna or Jesus and Moses to come and show you the path of enlightenment, become an enlightened soul, so that one day you come to learn about the science of metallurgy, for example. No. Or you become an let's say, cardiologist. You can't be just simply whatever you are. No? You can eat fish, you can eat frog, you can eat spinach, no? And you can sleep upside down or relax in corpse pose. Really, it's not a big deal. You are a scientist. Okay? And still continue speaking sweetly like Buddha did, or shout like a donkey. It's not going to make a difference about the field of knowledge where you specialize. No? So Baka is thinking of how people behave like this. I can't believe them. Now he's sitting, ageless person who had attained immortality. Now he's upset about people's behavior. And while he has such a high degree of endurance, tolerance, forbearance, and fortitude, still a mosquito bites him and he gets mad at the mosquito. And when he cannot catch the mosquito and beat him up and kill him, then he is enraged. Okay? And still he is not able to figure out what is the source of his anger. Is it the mosquito that bit him, making him angry? Or is it the people who 5, 7 years ago, 10 years ago made his life a hell? It is memory pertaining to them and his lack of ability to forgive and forget and move on. Is it that is bothering him? So this way, he struggled for next 5, 10, 20 years, 50 years. Again, he committed himself to study, reflect, practice. Then again, next installment of God's grace came to him. And thus he was able to understand the importance of knowing his own mind and all the positive and negative tendencies which are stored in the mind. He was very happy, very grateful. Now this time he was grateful to everyone and everything who reminded him, including those who once created so much mess in his life that he had to run away from the world. I realized, had they not done that, perhaps you had not gotten the opportunity to really reflect on that what is source of our happiness and peace. As soon as he came to realize that everyone and everything, including all experiences and circumstances in life that walks in our life, has its own very unique purpose. It has some meaning. And only time will tell us that what was the meaning of, what was the purpose, what kind of goodness was sitting in people's, quote, misconduct toward me. And how nature used them as an instrument to help me move forward, even though at that time it looked like nature was using them as a whip, to beat me up because I was so stuck. Thank you, Mother Nature. Thank you, Providence. When that thought came, now his nature of his practice changed. Because he was immortal, and his immortality automatically included freedom from disease, freedom from old age, loss of vitality, the freedom from losing any vitality. Also, hunger, thirst, tiredness, fatigue, and need for sleep also wasn't there. For a few years, he struggled with boredom. When you don't have any of these needs, how do you occupy yourself unless you are fully anchored within and unless you have found your true home? It's better to work toward finding home, building home, and just keep yourself occupied. Even though in most cases, by the time we build our home, it is time for us to leave this world. And, in most cases, in fact, this is a big problem with the American populations and Japanese population, By the time you are in your 60s, late 50s, 60s, your worldly duties, responsibilities to great extent are met. I'm not talking about in general, there are always exceptions. So by the time you are at the retirement age, then that's when you start, and then you have resources. Children are gone, they are settled or whatever. And then it takes 5, 7 years, 10 years to really understand what is life's purpose. Then that is when time is, should we move to Florida? Perhaps that's a better place, or go to Mexico. And life will be great. It's nice and sunny. When you reach there, then you realize that it is too sunny, it is too muggy, hot and humid. Go to Canada. Canada has its own turmoil, it is afraid of being, becoming part of, the 51st state of the United States. It has its own problem. And so then 5-10 years goes into figuring out where is my home, what should I do, what to. And by the time we figure it out, then we realize that most of our time is spent with doctor's visit, doctor's office. this visit, eyes, ears, heart, this, that. It's very bizarre. Very bizarre. And if those things are not there, then boredom, loneliness, emptiness. First few years, if you had a good family life with children and things, if you are lucky that children were not into drugs and not with other problems, then empty nest syndrome you go through. And if they had the problem now, in those 10 years, 20 years, 30 years time, you have created such a samskara of worry and fear and anxiety, then even somehow you attain freedom, those samskaras are there in our head, Unless there is a reason to be sad and angry and worrisome, it's like life is not perfect. It's not, something is missing, Well, very bizarre. But Baka managed it. As a sidebar, I'll tell you, he managed, unlike many of us, only because suddenly he had more reason to be grateful than complain. Okay. Well, time to time people came to know, hey, did you hear that person, Baka, he is still alive. Do you know? So where does he live? I'm not sure, but such and such tribe people, tribes from such and such part of the jungle or such and such slope of the hill, they told me that they just saw him. And in that much time, he also thought, let me see. What about if I get married and have few children and start living a normal life, then life will be better. Baka thought that. In fact, there are 84 siddha masters. They have slightly different name in South India. In North India, different name. In Tibet, they have different name. But 84 of them, Kanhappa, Milarappa, Sarhappa, all these masters. And Tilopa, and long living masters. And just to live in this world, somehow find a peaceful way of being, and also find some common ground to have human contacts and companion. They have adopted bizarre lifestyle. One adopted lifestyle of arrow maker, blacksmith, things like that. Have you heard those stories? Yeah, if not, then there is a story, there is a quite famous book and very accurate book. It's called 1,000 Lions of Buddha. What is that? Buddha's Lions. Buddha's Lions. Yeah. So, and Baka is one of those such masters under different names, but most ancient name in yogic literature is Baka, B-A-K-A. So this way, 1,000 years went by. And somehow in mysterious way, he migrated from this part of India to other part of India to South and East Asia, some certain, Central China, Tibet, all those places, Africa, so that keeps changing his identity just to live little bit comfortably. So on his 100th birthday, at Mount Meru, wherever that Mount Meru is, according to people of India and Nepal and all those places, Tibet, China, Mount Meru is Mount Kailas. According to the people of Europe and Africa, Mount Meru is next to Mount Kilimanjaro. According to people of Southeast Asia, it is Mount Kota Kinabalu in Malaysia. And so this way, he went to Mount Meru on his 1,000th birthday. That's when Indra, the king of gods, paid a visit to him. Baka greeted him. Now they are having a dialogue, which is very, very important for us to understand what is exactly homecoming. You know? So, Indra and Baka are having very, very focused personal dialogue. Indra asked, "Sir, you have been living here for such a long time. Tell me, what is the biggest joy and most sorrowful experience you have achieved in these 1,000 years?" So Baka said, "Does this long life really matter? And if it does matter, then, sir, you are much more ancient than I am, being a celestial person, celestial being, as a king of gods, Indra. Your life is million years long life. Therefore, you should know the answer better than I do." He said, no. The problem here is that we celestial people do not have the same kind of experience of the flow of time and space. In our world, the law of cause and effect does not operate exactly in the same manner as it operates here in your world. And most importantly, you have 5 very solid and very recognizable and well-defined senses. Sense of seeing, tasting, touching, etc. Also, other thing that what you people have is a mind with very linear way of thinking, you know. And also, you people have heart. And it is very sensitive to the feelings and emotions and sentiments. And you have intellect, faculty of discernment, that enables you people to discern and decide and distinguish right from wrong and good from bad. Ours is very, very flat life. Okay. Also, in your case, please, in your case, things don't happen just because you thought about it. You have to work toward it. And there is a thrill involved in it. At every step of your quest, you are going through a sense of either success or failure. Either your quest is slower or faster. Either you are too far away from your destination, or you are getting quite close to your destination. All these factors and recognition of these factors give you different kind of feelings. And in your case, in the case of humans, the life is continuously floating on the current where several streams, mainly divided in 2 parts, joy and sorrow, are mingled. No? The stream of life is made of two major currents, sorrow and joy. And there is continuous interaction between the two. And you as a human being is sometimes completely drowning in it, and sometimes you are just floating on it, in it. Sometimes you are caught in that current without much conscious awareness and choice. You are caught in the current of, or even sometimes even the whirlpool of joy and pleasure, and involuntarily at some point you are pushed out of it and you are caught, or even you start drowning in painful turmoils. This is a human life. None of these varieties exist in my heaven. It's extremely boring. So Baka said the good thing is, in Indra Devji, around 750 years ago, I attained freedom from that. I was also suffering from great boredom and lots of once I attained freedom from my continuous habitual complaining behaviors, and life became somewhat peaceful, and I found contentment in life. Then there was a phase of boredom. And then, through the divine grace, I found a way to get out of that stage. So Indra said, now can you tell me what is the problem, let's say in last 700 years or 750 years? He said this continuously I have been struggling with not having anybody with whom I can talk. I can be. Okay. I'm completely misfit in this world. I don't have this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem. I have none of those problems. But I do not have someone whom I can just sit down and talk about these twinkling stars. I'm like a absolutely lonely peak that stands alone. Others, those who are trying to climb it, and those who are mountaineering or trekking, for them it may be very, very wonderful mountain range, mountain peak. But peak itself, especially the peak part, there are no peaks in the world where the two peaks are together. No? That's why peak means peak. And it is separated by other peak by a valley. Well, also, I have found my purpose of life. But I can't just die, because immortality has turned into a curse. And Urdhvahu Biromesha, with my I tried everything to be in service of others. But it's like people really don't care. With 1,000 years of experience, out of which the first 300 were totally useless, they are not useful for any human beings. But the other remaining part of those 700-year long experience, they are very beautiful. Just even a tiny fraction of it is plentiful, is enough for people to live a healthy, happy, peaceful life. And with my hands up in air, shouting at the top of my lungs, I tried to tell people, I have written books. Indra said, really? I said, yes. So he reminded few scriptures, Upanishads. Actually, it's written by me. Which one? Mandukya Upanishad. Mandukya Karika. Mandukya Karika, you did it? Yeah. But it is written by a yogi whose name was Frog. Yes, really, Manduka means frog. He said, I was so fed up with myself. When people asked me what's my name, I said Manduk, a frog who just goes in hibernation for 10, 20 years, then wakes up. This is literally true. We know the story of, because we are from that tradition. The so-called Gaudapada, who wrote this particular scripture, he is a student of Vyasa and Shukdeva long time ago. And he went for few hundred years, for 1,000 years or so, in hibernation, in suspended animation. Okay. And when he re-emerged from that, people started calling him Gaudapada, respected person who comes from Gauda country, the kingdom of Gauda. That's a Gaudapada. And when he wrote the book, he said, but because he was like a frog, just animate, it's just in hibernation type of situation for a couple of 100 years. So people, the sages, those who were in similar situation, they started calling, Arey, Mr. Manduk ji, wake up now. Okay, chalo, let's start some life, go to America this time, Paris, and set up Himalayan Institute, Yeah, okay, 25 years. Somebody, then when you get kind of kicked and bit and punched and knocked down, then do some broken bone dance. Move on to China, Southeast Asia, Tibet, this, that. That's called Baka. Sir, painful part is languages have changed, expressions have changed, values have changed, and a totally different sets of me, and you. This is mine, that is yours. Don't enter my bubble, And you are part of us. You are not one of us. Even the criteria for all these things have changed. Most importantly, that which seemed to be, that which was once a great virtue, is no longer the virtue, a virtue. That which was something very wrongful thing, now it's no longer wrongful thing, you know. And few hundred years ago, the values were that even if your enemy stops at your door at the sunset, you know, seeking shelter, give him food, shelter, and provide all the protection. And next day morning, try your best to give some gift and very clearly tell that because sun has risen, and with the rise of the sun, in my memory, you are my enemy, that memory is also rising. Before it becomes too intense, please go, be on your way. And here is something that will help you, on your journey. That was the right thing to do. Let's say 100 years ago, 200 years. It's no longer the virtue. I'm sitting very quietly because I'm so confident that after sunset, nobody will hurt you and harm you. But in the middle of night, 2 in the morning, suddenly a bomb drops. Greatest act was that a hungry person to be recognized, just hungry. It's not a Muslim, not a Christian, not a white, not a black, not a man, not a woman. It is just a hungry person starving. And help, serve, love, give. Without any discrimination. But, O Indra, I have seen how the human beings go through, their consciousness goes through its own unique cycles. Sometimes none of these things really make any difference. Who is hungry, who is starving, who is sick, who is, it's like a greatest virtue at some point in my life when I was, quote, in my adulthood, a few hundred years ago, a mother is giving birth somewhere totally in a lonely place, started having labor pain. And at that time, a bunch of robbers, complete criminals, they were passing through that part of the jungle which was almost closer to the rural village areas. And a complete brutal killer, criminal, upon seeing a mother in labor pain, out of thirst and pain, labor pain, was kind of falling unconscious and gaining consciousness little bit, again falling back unconscious. That criminal robber comes and helps that mother with full realization that it was very dangerous thing because that path, that trail was too close to the villages, and once a single villager sees that who I am, then all the villagers, they will come and they will beat me up because I have committed so many theft and robbery in this particular village. And yet, leaving that women unattended in that situation was a far more severe crime and sinful act than many other crimes. Now Indra Deva, O Indra, such values are gone. So when you are living in a world which lacks the values which you value so much, let's say, value so much, you find yourself very uncomfortable in there, that kind of environment. Despite you have money, your house is in very good location, all the facilities are there, climate is great, all the shopping malls are nearby, you have all the facilities, and yet you find yourself as an odd person, or you find that environment as an odd environment. So he said, I'm just totally out of place here. So Indra said, sir, may I make a suggestion? Yes, please. Come with me to heaven. Baka said, although I have not been to heaven, and yet I have read about heaven. Although I do not believe, I do not know how much truth is there in the books that talk about heaven and hell. But still, I did not find heaven much attractive. So you tell me exactly, tell me something about heaven. So Indra described all great things about heaven. So tell me some negative aspect of heaven. I said, if I become negative toward heaven, then the luster of heaven will drop. Therefore, I cannot tell you what is bad about heaven. So he laughed. He said, it means, tell me, are you really happy in heaven? Go ahead, tell me, because you are not in the heaven, you are now on earth. Here, the power of discernment is fully operational. He said, yes. There in the heaven, we are just a victim of heaven. And only the change that was predetermined at the time of the formation of heaven, only that kind of change is, happens there, and that is totally on its own accord. It's not that we want change, but rather change is supposed to happen, and we like it or we don't like it. Change happens. Otherwise, normally there is no change. It's exactly the same. Throughout life, there is only one particular age that you are in. There is no sense of belongingness there. He said, you don't have family there? He said, no, we don't have families. We have apsaras, celestial nymphs. And there is nothing like we love and all that stuff and we care. No, We just thought of being with somebody in a particular way, we are. And then we are on our separate path. So, these are simple things, but tell me, what kind of hierarchies are there? Is there an inferiority, superiority complex there? Oh, yes, plentiful. This great people, celestial beings, this great celestial beings, this great celestial beings, and the celestial beings completely at the bottom row. And how do they manage their ranks? Very pitifully. No. I said, can you give some example? I'm not able to relate. If you are in heaven, you are in heaven. I said, okay, I'll give you example. So this is my personal embellishment. Here. There is billionaires club. Billionaires club, the club. Like people with $1 billion plus, rank. So there was a party. There is a party in that club. People are coming this evening. There was some fun. And somehow stock market did very poorly. And in the afternoon, your wealth dropped by few $1 million, below $1 billion. Now you reach the ballroom of the fancy hotel where the fun begins in the evening. Everything is so well documented. Oops. Out. Excuse me. I'm TRUMP. Should I call the security? You are pushed out. Really? Does it happen? Oh, yes. Those who are 100 billion plus, they walk. Hello. How do you do? Hey, hi, fellow. How are things happening? Because he has only $10 billion. How are things? If you need some little push, call my office, talk to my assistant. Very humiliating. It happens in heaven. You read, if you have not already read the stories of Greek mythologies, Egyptian mythology, Indian mythology. Sometimes these gods and goddesses, they are more, petty than humans, normal average humans here on this planet. Even if you read just first chapter of the Yoga Sutra, one thing definitely will happen to you. Read, reflect, and start practicing. And even if you don't read and study and everything, just only Sutra 133 and 136, forget the rest of the entire Yoga Sutra. One thing definitely will happen to you. You will lose your taste for both hell and heaven. And by the time you are into even in the middle of Yoga Sutra chapter 2. It's very, very inspiring and very reassuring that how wonderful it is to be a good human being. I'm going to be a better person. No? And I'm going to be a better person not because that fellow is better than me, just independently I'm going to be a better person. No? I do not need a reason to be a good human being. No? Other than just because this is a very, very unique opportunity in life. Okay? I'm born as a human, without horn on my head and without tail on my back. There must have been a reason why nature took away my nails and canine teeth. Okay? And therefore, how wonderful it will be to comply with the divine plan, the divine will, that I don't have to behave like a beast who use their teeth and nails, to claim their territories, okay, or their positions, okay. By taking away our canine teeth and claws, horns, and tail, nature gave us a certificate that you are a dignified soul who does not need to sacrifice his or her dignity in order to survive and succeed in this world. Okay? Indra said, "Sir, I'm going to retire from being Indra." So Baka said, "Do you people have that choice?" He said, "Yes. That choice is there, but it has to go through our teacher, Brihaspati." His name is Brihaspati. Yesterday, before lighting the flame, in our fire offering, there was one mantra that talks about Brihaspati. And of course, deep inside, there are many, many mantras that were dedicated to Brihaspati. The Brihaspati is the teacher, guru, and guide of celestial beings, including our own mind and senses. So it has to be approved by our teacher, Brihaspati. So that's how their conversation ended. Indra went to his teacher, Brihaspati, whose knowledge, wisdom, every form of strength, power, glory that you can think of is 1,000 times far, far superior than Indra. So he went to his teacher and he asked that two things. Number one if he can give his permission for Indra's retirement. Second, guide him further. So he said, the idea of retirement that you are talking about, where does it come from? Why do you need retirement? Are you tired of performing your actions and you are falling into the trap of inertia, inaction, akarmani? He said, no, sir. I visited the world of mortals, where I met Baka, who through his self-effort, not by birth, but through his self-effort, has attained immortality. And after attaining immortality, unlike me, who became complacent, Baka remained fully active and vigilant. I have not been vigilant. Just because by birth I have been, quote, a celestial being, I took it for granted. And I'm realizing what a waste of my life, that even though I'm a celestial being, and yet my growth has been so stunted. And up to this day, I have been taking care of this heaven only because it is my duty. There is no actual love, and there is a sense of identification with my action, and I have been suffering from some great sense of pride, which is a gentler word, but actually it's hubris. And not realizing that as time is passing, every day the burden of my self-identification as Indra and big boss of heaven is continuously increasing. And definitely one day my soul will be crushed under the weight of my this self-identification. Therefore, O Gurudeva, today I seek your guidance. Brihaspati, the teacher, was very, very pleased. Very pleased. And it is in that context, Brihaspati, the celestial teacher, taught Indra about the sadhana related to Sri Vidya. Okay? Sri Vidya shrine that we have here. Of course, their level of teachings, their level of practice, their level of experience definitely is far, far, far more profound than ordinary human mind can comprehend. And yet it gives us great lesson, that whether we are in heaven, of course, hell is always, something that we should avoid. But whether we are in heaven or here we are in the world and the heavenly quarters of this planet, we have to be very, very careful and reflect on, have we found our place which we can call our place? Nothing really, physically speaking, nothing changed much in the last 6 months, 7 months, 8 months' time. And yet I heard how many 100 doctors from the United States, they started leaving the country and moving to Canada. Why? What is there that they felt that their home has been looted and they have to build a home somewhere else? Materially, financially, nothing has changed. Their salaries is still the same, their houses is still the same, everything, all the social benefits are still the same. What suddenly changed? So, there are thousands and thousands of such circumstances in life. You know? And if we do not pay attention to those circumstances and really look for creating a world which is truly livable world, then what will happen? This continuous birth of production of Alexander the Great, Akbar the Great, you know, this the great, that the great, will continue happening. Has anybody so-called that great has done anything good which historians are so proud that they write their names in the books of history? Somehow it seems that we celebrate our homelessness. And when we do not find enough things to be proud of, then we see who is out there who has done more people homeless. Alexander the Great. How many thousand people he made sure that they become homeless? How many cities he burnt and destroyed? You just take a big list of things. Big list. Chinese so-called emperors. People from, Mongols, Mongolia, India, Japan, these great rulers and kings. Armies marching, and sycophants are beating the drums. His Highness, such and such, on his way, clear the way, clear the way. If not an emperor, then at least we try to be Aladdin. And start, blowing our magic lamp and have the genie come out of it and roll the red carpet. Okay? This is human tendency, and as a sincere seeker of life, we have to be very, very mindful about it. Just imagine what causes us that one day we get out of our own houses, or we ask our own loved ones to get out of those houses. What causes us to suddenly one day go through that process that dismantles our entire family structure? Definitely, there was almost 50 years ago, not 50, 40 years ago. One day I gave a lecture, and Rolf, so many of you know Rolf Sovic. After my lecture was over, he said, then very gently, very lovingly, as he has been such a soft-spoken person forever. In the lecture, I said something which I did not realize that I was wrong in my expression. I said, like those who divorce, My tone was that, don't you have some compassion for your children, or let's say some more tolerance, more understanding, more forgiveness, so that you don't create more pain? Well, I said that. Rolf met me, and you know Panditji, your argument, I feel, is not correct. So I asked, which one? So he told me. He said, it's nature of human beings to find freedom from pain and sorrow. And it is in attempt to find cure for that pain, people go through different actions, including divorce. They know, in most cases, they know that it is difficult situation, but to avoid pain, which is already there, finally one day they decide, okay, now there is no other option left. I thought about it. I said, hey, we are human beings. This is a natural tendency to love ourselves and love others. And definitely there is a powerful instinct involved in taking care of our loved ones, children, etc. And yet there are times in life when we make very, very tough decisions. Then I reflected a little further, that I also knew all these things. Even by that time I had already written a few books. Whole Buddhism, which is, one whole chapter in my first book I wrote called 7 Systems of Indian Philosophy. Whole entire teaching of Buddha is based on these 4 fundamental principles called 4 Noble Truths. That there is sorrow, there is pain, there is cause of pain, and there is a state beyond pain and sorrow, and there is ways to reach that state. I have written it. Then I realized that in my provocative, or let's say emotionally charged, lecture kind of in behavior, I lost my own sensitivity. It is sign of my immaturity. I'm so sorry that I did not pay attention to my own, lectures and audience and many, many people. Same thing, even if there was an argument from my side, I could have said it a little bit more gently and lovingly. I was so thankful to Rolf at that time. So see here, something goes wrong in our inner or outer world. Of course, it starts with our inner world. And it starts contaminating our external world. Then the same very place, same very home, doesn't look good anymore. And we start behaving so differently. It's same very house, same arrangement of our furnitures, which we have been appreciating for last 10 years. Same closet, same hanger, same shirt, same way of doing laundry, same pots and pans, okay? Same silverware. Everything I loved and I've been loving for last 10 years. And suddenly, I start criticizing. Why is this cup sitting here this way? Ages have gone by, and same very same very spoon and forks. Are we ever going to change these spoons and forks? And then my wife asks, until yesterday you loved all these things. What happened to you just overnight? Don't argue with me. Where is this coming from? Our world, our house, inside us has started crumbling, and that is reflecting on our fork, spoon, pots, pans, bed cover, pillow cover. Just imagine, this example may sound very simplistic. Okay? And therefore, homecoming means to come back to that true self, which is very lovely, very peaceful, very gentle, very kind, and very accommodating. Okay? Very accommodating. Once that is there, then this world is a beautiful place to be. Then even the King of Gods will come and will have humility to greet King of Gods and strength to ask. If he invites, come to heaven, will have clarity and strength to ask. First, you tell me, what is there in the heaven, and why should I come? And I have to make sure that heaven has to be better than the world which I have already found here. Otherwise, there is no point in going to paradise. Once we know that, still the world will continue growing the way it grows, behaving the way it behaves, and also we'll continue discharging our duties, we'll continue playing our roles. As a philosopher, I speak on these subjects, however, in a kind way. If I happen to be a politician, thank God in this lifetime I don't have that luxury anymore, and I'm very glad about it. But suppose if it happens, yes, I will be good politician, I will manage people's mind and I will do things a little bit this way, that way, however, making sure that I use those tools and tactics, however, in a manner that my own hands don't get dirty, and definitely my own speech and action don't begin to stink. I'll make sure that even a politician, if I'm a businessman, definitely I will work for increasing the profit margins, but however in a manner that it does not drill big holes in somebody else's pocket. Okay? All those things will be there. So what will happen? Then as a businessman, as a lawyer, as a doctor, as a politician, as a spiritual person, as a philosopher, automatically my own inner qualities and goodness then will keep manifesting in those in all those different roles. Therefore, automatically there will be, as there are concepts there in yogic tradition. Raja Rishi, a politician who was like a enlightened soul, King Janaka. So as a politician, you could be a great enlightened soul and bring enlightenment by using political tools and means. That means inner happiness and outer happiness, etc. So any profession is just fine as long as we have found our own inner anchor and we have found enough wisdom to make sure that inner anchor, that which is our true home, is not, shaken, but rather well nourished, well protected. Then from thereafter, our journey continues. This is the message for this homecoming. Thank you. God bless you. See you in every possible way, right here in person, as well as digitally, through books, through God knows what else, Thank you very much.